Alright, in today's video, I want to talk about how RaidZone works and what you can get out of it and the sort of gameplay loop around it all. To start off with, I want to go over the baseline of what the scenario actually is. To start off with, it is basically a Rust-like scenario. It is fundamentally takes a lot of the same concepts that Rust has and applies them to the once human world. And it is, in that sense, a full loot, open world PvP scenario that has a weekly wipe. That's right, weekly wipe. To create it, make it refreshing, and to have, I guess, more players constantly re-entering the gameplay loop. So, for example, if you get raided one week and you're incentivized, or you no longer want to play that week, you can give it another go next week when everyone starts again. And in that sense, I think it is perfect pacing to make it a week long, so people stick around for like another scenario or give it another shot the next week. Meaning the scenario doesn't really ever become dead in that sense. The concern would be signups being dead, but I don't think that'll be the case because I think this scenario nails actual PvP. And what I mean by that is in this Rust-like scenario, if you've never played Rust before, this restructures PvP entirely in Once Human. If you've played Once Human PvP before, you would know it was broken, unbalanced, not really incentivized, and sort of didn't make sense. You had broken weapons like the critical pulse, jaws, bingo at one point, and it all just sort of created this very unfun system in Once Human PvP. This scenario aims to restructure, re-incentivize, and effectively redesign the entire concept of PvP in this game. So again, it's called RaidZone. It is a game mode, not necessarily a scenario. So it's important to mention that the way this works, much like Rust, is you'll spawn in the open world, and I want to quickly mention that the whole map is full loot open world PvP. There is 0 safe zones in this map. It is full PvP. Now, these vending machines are vendors that you can buy stuff from with a currency that you earn in the scenario, but they are not safe zones, so people will be sitting around these, maybe even build bases near them. They can give you good stuff with that currency you earn in the scenario. So, again, full loot PvP, you will randomly spawn somewhere on the map, somewhere random. Could be over here, could be over here, could be up here, wherever. There are some hot zones for spawns. I know that Tallgrass Inn has a lot of spawns down the bottom left here for memory, especially in the closed test last month. And generally, you want to scramble, find some logging, find some wood, build a base. So, you first off want to press B, you want to go to your, I think, structures, and then, facilities. And then you want to go to function and then territory terminal. That is going to be your initial base placement, or think of it as a TC in Rust if you've played Rust before. If you haven't played Rust before, it is effectively, again, a terminal that is going to allow you to build around it and create a base. So you want to protect this thing. It is important you protect your territory terminal. If your territory terminal gets destroyed, bye-bye to your base. So everything is raidable to a degree in this game. We will get onto that in a sec. But again, your base can be raided. You need to build this, protect it, and I will give you an example of my base. It is very Rust-like. It is a honeycomb design. I have got, I think, 5 layers of honeycombing for memory, and it is about 4 layers high, using stone as its entirety. There are different tiers of material that you will get. But I quickly want to bring and ping-pong us back to the way PvP is actually redesigned in this scenario. There is no keywords in this scenario. If you're familiar with other scenarios, you had mods and blueprints that did all these crazy things like momentum up and all of that sort of stuff that had these crazy effects. That doesn't exist here. You can't bring in inherit, your mods from other scenarios. They still exist on your character, as you can see, but they're just grayed out. Same with your blueprints. They aren't shown, but you still have them. You just can't use them here. You also can't inherit anything from Eternal Land, so it's, more equal. It's an equal competitive playing field for PvP, which is amazing. There's no gear differential in this mode. It is a raw skill scenario. And what I mean by it being a raw skill scenario is weapons and gear in this game are quite literally just stats. Damage 10, fire rate 800, weak spot damage 75%. That's it. That is the entire concept of gunplay in this is bullet damage and weak spot damage. Weak spot is headshots. So it's headshot damage, normal damage, fire rate, magazines, stability, really basic stats, as you can see on the right side here. It is fundamentally a basic gunplay scenario, and I like that. It removes that unbalanced portion we had beforehand in PvP. So, in the way the blueprints work in this scenario, is you will unlock them in memetics. Memetics is also completely redesigned specifically for this RaidZone scenario, or RaidZone game mode, rather. In this memetics tab, you will have 4 different sections, and they will all have different things you will want to unlock with something called memory chips. Memory chips are a common currency that you will find all over Nalcop in RaidZone. They'll be in POIs, they'll be in abundance in rarer POIs that have these like higher tier markings. So you want to look out for these bigger POIs to get more of them. They're also spread out in storage boxes all over the map on roads and everything. And for example, I think I store them in here. No, they're in one of these boxes. Let me just quickly find it here. My base is very disorganized because I got so much shit. I've raided a few bases and killed like 20 players. So yeah, I have 1,000, almost 1,200 memory chips here, right? These drop on death. Just like everything else, if I die with these in the open world, they will drop and someone else can loot them. This currency is going to be essential for building things and getting memetics most importantly. And the way memetics are completely redesigned here is it's literally this simple. You get memory chips in the open world, you unlock the formula for the Deagle. You get more memory chips and you can get the MP5, you can get the Glock, you can get the M870, which is actually really good in this scenario, by the way. Yet to get a useful shotgun for this, or blueprint for the shotgun in other scenarios, which is kind of cool. And same with attachments. Attachments aren't found through puzzles or riddles like other scenarios. They are unlocked simply by the memetics tree, and you can instantly equip them after unlocking them. So I can go to my gear, I can right click on a weapon, and I can instantly attach those attachments that I unlocked in memetics. These, however, do not drop on death. This is the one thing that doesn't drop on death, is these attachments. But you do have to make sure you unlock them through that memetics tab. On top of that, stats are completely different on attachments. There is no crazy modifiers, they're very balanced, and everything has an upside and a con. So the break, which I think is the best attachment, gives me fire rate, but nerfs my accuracy, giving me a lot more spread and recoil. Now, recoil is entirely different in this scenario as well. Guns have way more kick and way more akin to rust. And other attachments also have massive upsides and massive cons. Compensator, minus 15 range, but plus 16 stability, which is a lot in this scenario. Same with the suppressor, plus 10 range, minus 15% damage per shot, and stability. So this is, in my opinion, the suppressor is not good at all unless you're doing PvE. So I really like using the suppressor if I'm clearing out enemy mobs in a point of interest and I don't want to go noticed. The suppressor actually nullifies your gun sound a lot. And I want to get onto that as well. Gun sounds, footsteps have been completely redesigned in Once Human. You now have proper directional audio, and you can pinpoint gunshots and gunfight precisely now. I'm not kidding, you can actually listen to a gunshot a few hundred meters away and know where it is. So firing your gun is going to be an actual disadvantage if you're clearing a POI. You want to use a bow, which is still fantastic in this mode for clearing points of interest. In fact, a bow is the best POI clearing weapon when you want to save ammo especially. Everything is reworked progression-wise as well. For example, there's a bunch of new materials that you may never have seen before. There's gun bodies, which are going to be helpful for getting resources. You can break these down for other resources, or you can keep them for crafting stuff. There's a whole new progression system here to learn that I will get into, but I don't want to linger on each specific item too much, but rather the fundamental changes. For example, bandages in RaidZone, rather than healing your broken ankles, will instead heal you in this scenario. And another mechanic that's new here is energy packs. While these would be medical syringes in other scenarios, over here, they regen your shield. If you look above my health bar at the bottom of the screen, you can see that I have these little segments of shield above my health. These shield pieces are gained by wearing sets of armor. So I have a full blue set of armor, which is actually pretty good gear in this scenario, by the way. The highest tier of gear you can get in this scenario is purple, and these again have no unique effects. They're literally just plus accuracy plus load. They're pretty basic gear in this scenario, which is nice. And it's also pretty easy to get if you know what you're doing. Also, if you're killing a lot of players, you're going to rack up a lot of bonus kits, which is cool. As you can see, I'm wearing all dead man's gear. So it's all dropped gear. I can't repair this stuff because I've looted it off someone. But this gear here is just plus stats. You can't add mods. Mods don't exist here. And attachments, ammo types, 2 ammo types. That's it, by the way. You have heavy ammo and you have crude ammo. That's all it is. And the only difference between the 2 ammo types is a little bit more damage. So you get plus 10 range, but you lose stability with heavy ammo, by the way. So crude ammo is still going to be very strong. And there's this sort of concept where you can instantly log into RaidZone, loot a POI, get a gun, get some ammo, and instantly take down a player that has been playing for 20 hours. The concept here is it's an equal playing field. A player that has been playing for 3 hours could potentially have the same exact kit as a player that has been playing for 20 hours on RaidZone on a RaidZone wipe, because you just have to have killed a player or looted a POI that had good loot. And that is one of the best, I guess, parts of this scenario. There's no actual gear gap. You can easily take a green or blue weapon and beat the purple weapons. Now, there is purple weapons, which is the highest tier in this scenario, and that is the only two. There's only, I think, a few purple weapons in the game. And that is the Scar, which is the, I guess, one of the best assault rifles in this scenario, and then the Sniper and the LMG. The Sniper is the most expensive gun to get in the game, because as you can imagine, snipers in a scenario like this, where there's no keyword effects, would be pretty strong, and it rightfully is one of the hardest to get. So alongside that, you have the purple LMG, which would also be pretty strong, but probably have a lot of recoil as well. So it's very similar to Rust. You have decent weapons, and you have normal weapons. That's it. That is the whole concept. Gunplay, movement, and situational awareness are your best friends here. On top of that, you have a rocket launcher, which is one of the hardest weapons to get in the game, and is the only legendary weapon in this scenario, if you want to call it so. Rockets are going to be the most expensive to make, as they require a lot of resources, and that is the concept here of raiding is a lot harder as well. So I guess we can jump onto that. One stone wall has 2000 durability. This is no easy feat to break through, especially when you have up to 7 layers of a honeycombing to get through. It is way harder to raid a base here than in Prism Clash or Evolution School. You might remember that in Evolution School and Prism Clash, you had the problem of plasma rounds and plasma cannons and all of that crap. That doesn't exist here. Plasma cannons don't exist here. Plasma rounds do not exist here. Those kinds of turrets do not exist here. Normal turrets exist, and they're quite strong, and they're used only for defense. But other than that, you will not find any of that OP gear gap stuff in this scenario. It is fundamentally an equal playing field. This entire 8x8 honeycomb I set up only took me about 8 hours, meaning if I got raided, it wouldn't take me long to get back to where I was. And this doesn't include all of the gear I collected in that 8 hours. This was all on stream, by the way. In 8 hours, I have a beyond insane amount of stuff, a lot of ammo. I have an insane amount of backup kits in case I died, and these were primarily from killing other players and looting them. So, of course, you will get a lot more gear if you kill players. So the better player is rewarded by skill. And I have one concern with this, and that is the other mechanic in the scenario is deviations. Yes, they do indeed exist here, and they are reworked, however. So while deviations are in RaidZone, their only unique mechanic here, they work fundamentally differently. And you can still door phase, by the way, only in your own base, but you can't wall phase. I quickly want to mention that if you play previous Once Human scenarios. If you try and wall phase in this mode, you're just going to keep pinging back like this. So you can't wall phase, but you can door phase. Now, on to deviations. They have unique abilities over here that can be used in combat. They are, some of them ranging from OP to just mid. My favorite one is the Pyro Dino, and deviations you just get from points of interest all over the map as well. You go to Rotten Manor, open one of these blue boxes, and it will give you a deviation or two. Very easy to get. I wouldn't worry about them. I've got like 3 deviation boxes in my base, and you will lose them if you die. Not if they're stored in a securement container though. If you store a deviation in a securement container, it cannot be looted. Or it cannot be looted from your body. It will be looted if someone raids your base. But anyways, these deviations have special abilities over here, and some of them are unbalanced, and is one of the main problems of the scenario. If I press E, Pyrodino does a new strafing run ability, and it's pretty cool. And this does a burning damage effect, like a napalm strike, literal war crimes. And it can also do a pretty cool AoE sort of explosion attack, which, if you saw at the clips at the start of the video, is pretty OP. It is one of, in my opinion, the most OP deviations in this scenario, and I can spam up to 40 rounds of this thing before it goes on cooldown again. And this does 50 damage or so per shot and applies a burn on top of that. So that is one of the most OP deviations in RaidZone, in my opinion. That said, there are, again, some things that need to be patched up, like that balancing, but the gunplay itself is equal. The gunplay actually feels really good until someone uses a deviation. I just want to throw that in there as a little TLDR. There are some balancing issues that I would like to see happen to the scenario. It is early access, so I can understand it. Now, I also quickly want to mention that the challenge tab is extremely important. So you're going to be tasked with doing small activities in RaidZone, and these are going to give you little supply crates that'll give you some memory chips, some weapons, some tungsten, and things like that. Along the right here, you'll get little boxes that'll give you like an MP7, like a blue MP7, a shotgun turret even. Complete these. They're going to massively boost your fast tracking and progression in the scenario, and help you set up a really solidified defense and raiding base, such as I've got all these shotgun turrets here, and half of these came from those scenario challenges. These are really OP, by the way. Shotgun turrets can one-shot players. If you saw the clip at the start where the dude just happened to walk into our turret, the poor dude. But yeah, so it is a Rust-like scenario, basic gunplay, no mods, no keywords, and you're probably wondering, what's the point other than PvP? So the actual gameplay loop of RaidZone has you going out to these POIs that are marked in different tiers. There are green POIs, which have basic realm crates. Now, basic realm crates are going to require a basic realm crate access card. These are looted from any crate in the wilderness at any POI. They're fairly common. I have around 32 of them. I stored the backup in my chest because I don't want to lose them on death. Because you do lose access cards on death. You lose everything, okay? So these basic access cards are going to open those basic access boxes. After opening a basic access box, you're going to get a intermediate access card from that basic box. The intermediate access card can now take you to a blue POI marked on the map, and that can open an intermediate realm crate. The intermediate realm crate will then grant you with an advanced realm crate. These give increasingly good rewards, by the way. It could be tungsten, it could be a purple weapon. And these will go up to the final tier, which is red. We'll try and find a red POI here. It looks like they've already been looted. So they're pretty strong in the rewards they give, and it looks like someone has already claimed them. So basically, in the way it works, you go to a green POI, you'll be able to get a card to a blue POI. You'll get a blue POI, and you'll go to a red POI. Red POIs look like they've, again, all been looted. But as an example, we can see it sort of hover over it here. That red crate, as you can see in the information panel here, is going to give us the best rewards in the game, and it needs that advanced access crate to even open. Now, on top of that, there's a little bit more complex here. That is going to give you some really cool stuff. And again, could give you some purple gear, some important resources, some tungsten, you name it. Now, on top of that, you will have the whole sort of, I guess, mechanic of this scenario, which is called the realm destruction. This is a little bit of an unknown for me, so I don't know the full extent of how this works. All I know is people will be contributing to something to, I guess, end the scenario, if that makes sense. It's kind of confusing to me still, as I haven't really experienced any of it yet. But you have an item in your inventory at the start of the scenario called Ursula. Ursula cannot be dropped, and it sort of lets you I guess, give power to it and it'll destruct the scenario. It's kind of confusing. You can sort of read up on it in the survival tab. This is sort of the unknown of the scenario, and you can read it here. Refresh supplies, by the way. So loot crates, I also forgot to mention, loot in this scenario is shared. If someone opens a crate, you can't open it. If someone opens an advanced realm crate, like I mentioned before, you can't open it, and it will refresh every hour. So these POIs are constantly changing around every hour, every 15 minutes, and that sort of creates these hot zone POIs, right? Red zone POIs with advanced realm crates are going to be where most of the PvP happens, because there's a decent amount of basic and intermediate POIs around the map, and there will be small scale skirmishes there, but the main PvP is going to be hyper competitive around these, I guess, high tier, these red zones, if you will. Then you have the realm crates, and again, realm crates respawn every 20 minutes, 1 hour, and 6 hours. So 6 hours is for red, by the way, red realm crates, so advanced. And then you have aerial loots. Aerial loot happens from the second day. These are supply drops. Think of it like a supply drop in PUBG. Very similar to that. Happens 4 times a day based on your server time at 12 o'clock, 1300, which is 1 p.m. 20, what is fucking 20 o'clock is like, what? 8? No, 9, I think. 9 p.m.? Yeah, I think. Yeah, 9, right? I think, not tripping there. No, 8? It is 8, isn't it? It is 8. Okay. Yeah. I'm not 24-hour enthusiast, but at 8 p.m. server time, that is when the third will happen, and then before midnight, 1 hour before midnight, no, sorry, 3 hours before midnight, at 9 p.m., I think, yeah, 9 p.m. is when the last airdrop will happen for the day. So it all sort of happens during peak time. And these all have a 10-minute countdown, so it'll be marked on the map and create a bit of tension, and this will also be where a lot of the sort of high-risk PvP happens. Then you have Ursula, and this actually explains a little bit better than I did. You can attain large amounts of realm fragments through advanced realm crates and aerial loot. Those are the only way to get realm fragments. These fragments will be used to cultivate Ursula and summon the descent of the Manibus, which will effectively destroy the scenario. This will inflict a massive AoE damage, creating the hollow in a large area. It will also it will also shatter the realm, forcing it into an early settlement phase. So while the scenario is around a 7-day wipe, it can end even sooner. So it is a very fast-paced scenario, and as you can see, all of the gear and the base are built in 8 hours, very quick to set up. It is a fast-paced PvP scenario, and even if it feels like you're losing a lot, you aren't, which is the best part. It feels like you have a lot, and it feels like you have a lot to lose, but you actually don't. And that is the nice part about it. So after phase 1 ends, and I think it's a 2-day phase, you enter the mighty endgame. This is where sort of all of the action goes down. It is kind of the same rule set as phase 1, except this is where your realm fragments are actually going to start to increase the realm destruction. So this is where the people start to contribute to ending the scenario, if you will. And it's a gimmick that I haven't really experienced yet, especially in the closed test. I didn't really bother with it too much. I was out there just PvPing. And same goes here. I just had a blast going around fighting little small PvP skirmishes at these points of interest. As you can see, these right here, I just have been going to these and finding little like 1v2s, 1v3s, and it's been a lot of fun. And I think that the main question I have about this scenario so far is what is the rewards? Because since everything progression-wise is isolated in the scenario, what do you get out of it that you can bring to other scenarios is my main question, right? You can get some asterism crates, but let's be for real. Nobody needs asterism crates. Let's be for real. The only cosmetic so far I've found is an exclusive name card, and I hope they add onto this and maybe even add some exclusive cosmetics, like character cosmetics and trophies or something. I think it would be really cool to see trophies in here as well, and a leaderboard if anything. Other than that, as it stands right now in early access, RaidZone is purely for PvP fun. There's really no reward currently, and I think that might turn a lot of people away while it's in early access, and I hope going into the full release in July they add something to incentivize people to play it. Would be my one thing to add on here. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic scenario that has maybe 1 or 2 tweaks, mainly being incentivizing cosmetics or something to participate people in it or facilitate people to play it. But other than that, it's a fantastic scenario. I've been having a blast with it on stream. And I also want to add in, there is immunity. So you can't technically get offline rated in this scenario if you play it properly. From 12 midnight till 12 midday server time, your base will be in a safe zone state. It is immune to all damage, but from 12 midday to 12 midnight, your base can be fully raided at 100% damage. So there is a 12-hour raiding period and a 12-hour non-raiding period. Now, the one thing I also have a problem figuring out here is time zones for certain things. Now, I'm in Southeast Asia. I know my server's time zone is based off Singapore time, which I just go into my browser and I literally type Singapore time. Like, I literally just go Singapore time and it says it's 2:31 p.m. in Singapore time, right? So that means there's around another, 11 hours and 30 minutes of pure raiding, right? No, sorry, not 11 hours, 30 minutes. What am I saying? There's around another 7 hours, not 7 hours, wait. 7 hours, 9 hours, 30 minutes. There's another 9 hours and 30 minutes of raiding in my scenario until immunity, right? So that is how I figured it out for myself. So that's GMT +8. If you're in Southeast Asia, it's based on Singapore. But if you're in another region, I'm not entirely sure what time zone you're based on, which is one of the main problems I have. I think it would be really cool if even just at the top right of the map, they said 6 more hours until immunity or 6 more hours until danger zone or something like that. I would really like that addition to be added so people know when the immunity timers are and when the raid timers are, without needing to figure out whatever server time they're on. Because a bunch of people live in different parts of the world but play to a server that's not near them or in a different country to them, based on a different time zone, which is my one major complaint with the scenario so far, is figuring out time zones. But other than that, scenario is a lot of fun. It's got a lot of potential, especially in its early access phase. It is the best PvP scenario they've put out so far. They just need the rewards to back it. Other than that, give it a try. Let me know your thoughts in the description. If you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Peace.